All right, so let's go over operations with functions, okay? So what we're going to start out by talking about are some basic definitions, okay? Because the hardest part of this really is understanding what the notation means, okay? So the first thing that we're going to see is we might see the notation, all right? Suppose it looks like f plus g of x, okay? And what I want you to understand is what this operation means, okay, is it means to take the f of x function and add it to the g of x notation, okay? So this side over here is a lot of times the way the problem looks, and this side over here does a better job of showing me how to do the problem. All right, so the next operation that we talked about is subtracting. So suppose we have f minus g of some input x, okay? So again, what this means is that we're going to take the f of x function and we're going to subtract it by the g of x function, okay? So the last operation that we talked about is multiplication. And so if we have f times g of x, again, what this means is we're going to take the f of x function and multiply it by the g of x function and work through that, okay? So let's look at a couple of examples. That was a good reminder of the definitions. So let's suppose that we are given these functions, okay? So let's suppose that we're given f of x is equal to 3x minus 5, okay? This g of x function is 2 minus 4x, and this h of x function is going to equal x squared minus 2x plus 3. All right, so there's our given functions. Let me just go ahead and move this up here. So the first thing we're going to do in example 1 is let's see if we had to do something like f minus g of 4, okay? So again, this notation is a little deceiving because it looks like we need to subtract f and g and then multiply everything by 4, but that's not what this means. Let's remember that what this means is we take f of the input 4 and subtract g of the input 4, okay? And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to basically plug 4 into the f function right here in for x. And so this is going to look like 3, and I'm going to input a 4 in for the x minus 5. Okay, so this, all of this right here is what it looks like to plug a 4 into the f function. Now I'm going to subtract that by, and right here in this little bracket, I'm going to plug a 4 right here into the g function for x. And it's going to look like this. It's going to go 2, it's going to go 2 minus 4, and we're going to input a 4 for this x, okay? And so really what I'm looking to do is let's figure out what f of 4 equals. Let's figure out what g of 4 equals, okay? Here's what f of 4 is. Here's what g of 4 is. And then at the very end, I subtract. So that's kind of the structure of how this is going to go. So what this is going to equal is 3 times 4 is 12. 12 minus 5, okay, is going to give us 7. And this is going to be 2 minus 16, and 2 minus 16 is negative 14. So now when I look at this, it's 7 minus negative 14. Well, what happens when we minus a negative is the signs are going to become plus plus, and this is going to equal 21. Okay, and so that would be the answer. And this is really similar to one of the homework problems, so hopefully you can use this as a guide. Okay, well, let's suppose here, for example 2, let's suppose that the problem said f minus g of x, okay? Now this is where you need to go back up and make sure on your paper, I need you to write down these given functions, because as I scroll down the whiteboard, I'm not going to be able to see them, but you should still be able to see these on your paper, okay? So hit pause if you need to and write down those functions as you follow along with me on this video. All right, so f minus g of x. Again, what does this mean? Well, what it means is we're taking the f of x function and subtracting it from the g of x function. Well, the f of x function was given and it was given to us that f of x is 3x minus 5. And we want to put a parenthesis around that so that we can see that 3x minus 5 is kind of like a package deal, right? We want to keep it together. And we're going to subtract that by what the g of x function is. And when I go look back up top, the g of x function was given as 2 minus 4x. The most important part of this problem is putting parentheses around the f part and putting parentheses around the g part. Well, once we do that, now we just have a subtraction problem. Well, this is like having a 1 in front, and so if I distribute a 1, nothing changes. But right here, we're going to minus the 2, okay? So it's going to become minus 2, and then we're going to minus the negative 4x, and when we minus the negative, it turns into plus 4x, and now we're just combining like terms. And so I can see that 3x and 4x is going to combine to make 7x, but then if I have a negative 5 and a negative 2, that's going to combine to make minus 7. And so what we've done this time is we've written a new function which represents the f function minus the g function. Okay, we've written basically a new type of function. So let's try a different operation. Let's suppose that maybe the problem asks us to do f times h of x. Okay, so again, I'm going to start with what this means. What it means, so again, looking at those definitions, what it means is to take the f of x function and times it by the h of x function. Well, the f of x function was given, again, I want to put a parenthesis around it, it was given as 3x minus 5. And the h of x function was given as x squared minus 2x plus 3. Again, this is me going back and looking at these given functions right from the beginning. Okay? So I set this up, and again, I put parentheses around these. Well, now, since this is a multiplication problem, we're going to double distribute, right? We're going to distribute the 3x to all of the terms, and 3x times x squared is going to be 3x cubed. 3x times negative 2x is going to be negative 6x squared. And then 3x times 3 is going to be plus 9x. Then we're going to take the negative 5 and distribute the negative 5 to all three terms. So negative 5 times x squared is negative 5x squared. Negative 5 times negative 2x is plus 10x. And negative 5 times 3 is minus 15. So let's take a look and see if we have any like terms that we can combine. Well, I see right here, there's a 3x cubed, nothing else to combine it with. So right now we've got 3x cubed. Okay? And so I'm just going to kind of highlight it as I'm done with it so that I know I can keep track. Well, then I've got my x squared terms. I see a negative 6x squared and a negative 5x squared, which is going to combine to make a negative 11x squared. So now I'm done with those terms. Okay? So now I see a positive 9x and a positive 10x, which is going to combine to make a 19x. Okay? And so then finally, the last term we have right here is this negative 15, and there's nothing to combine it with, so we just bring down our constant term. And this right here is a new function that represents the f function being multiplied by the h function. Okay? So hopefully this makes sense. We're going to look at one more example, okay, and just see if we can do a little bit more with this. So let's look at example 4. So what if we need to take f of a plus 3 minus f of a? Okay, what if it says to do something like this? So what I'm going to do here is I am going to make a little note that, again, this was given, but just so I have it right here next to me, the f of x function is 3x minus 5, okay? So I just needed that kind of mark for myself right here. All right, well, I'm going to start by doing f of a plus 3. And so what that's going to look like is we're going to write 3, we're going to take out the x and replace it with an a plus 3, and then I close it and I put minus 5. All right, so I basically just came right here and I left everything, right? So I left the 3 and I substituted in an a plus 3 in place for x, and that's where I'm getting that right there, okay? Now I'm going to put like a big parenthesis around this because I want to make sure that I keep all of that together. Now I'm going to minus, and in a parenthesis, I'm going to put the f of a part. Well, here's what it looks like to do f of a. Let me go ahead and erase this. We come up to our f function, and it's going to be 3, but we take out the x and replace it with an a and put minus 5. Okay, so it's going to go 3, plug an a in for x, and then we finish that with a minus 5. Okay, so half the battle really is just the structure of the problem and plugging the correct things in for x and making sure we've got the parentheses. All right, so before we get to any subtraction, let's distribute, let's combine like terms, let's see what we can do. This is going to be 3a plus 9 minus 5. I'm going to combine more, the 9 and the negative 5, and this is going to make 3a plus 4. Okay, that whole first part. And before I do any subtracting, I'm going to continue just to bring this minus sign down. So now what we have right here is this is 3a minus 5. So again, let's just copy this down into the next step. All right, so now we're ready to do our subtraction. So this is like having a 1 in front. And so if I distribute a 1, this first quantity stays the same. But over here, it's going to be minus 3a. And again, because of the parentheses, I minus the negative 5 and get plus 5. All right, so now we go to combine like terms. And what I'm noticing is the 3a and the negative 3a equals 0, so they cancel out. And then we have a positive 4 and a positive 5. So our answer is going to end up being 9. All right. Well, there's one more type of problem that I want to help with, just in case you see something similar to this in the homework. All right, last one. So what if we were asked to do something like this? What if the problem was to take f plus g of maybe something like of 5x? Okay. So what this is going to mean, again, we have to go back to what this means. What this means is we're going to take f of the input 5x, and we're going to add that to g of the input 5x. Okay? So what does it look like to plug a 5x into the f function? All right, so again, I'm going to just make a little note for myself. F of x was given as 3x minus 5, and the g of x function was given as 2 minus 4x. So here's what it's going to look like. It's going to go 3. I'm going to plug in, I'm going to take out the x, and we're going to replace it with a 5x. And then what comes, and then we have a minus 5 at the end. Okay, so that's what it looks like right here. So take out this x and replace it with a 5x. Leave all of that in a parenthesis. Okay, and we're going to add that to, now what's it look like to go into the g function right here and replace that x I highlighted with a 5x? Well, it's going to go 2, about that, or it's going to go 2 minus 4, and we're going to replace that x with a 5x. Okay, so structurally, the setup is really, really important. I have the f part here, I have the g part here, and I simplify the f and the g part before I go to add together. So right here, what I see is 3x and 5x is going to make 15x minus 5 for the f part. For the g part, I can multiply this part, and I'm going to get 2 minus 20x. Well, now our job is to add these functions. Well, since there's nothing in front of the parenthesis, I can just leave it as 15x minus 5. And this is going to be plus 2 minus 20x. So basically, everything stays the same because we're adding the two parentheses. All right, so let's add like terms. I get a 15x and a negative 20x, and this is a negative 5x. And then we combine the negative 5 and the positive 2, and our result is going to be negative 3. Okay, so hopefully that gives you enough examples to help explain that concept. If you need to go back through anything, just go rewind, hit pause as you need to, and let me know if you have any questions after that. Thanks for joining. Bye.